I mean, if we skip forward a little bit, you still came out and said, I refuse to be an SG to mediocrity.
Because
what did you mean
because
by this?
there is things that happen subsequent to that. Because where I come from, like the community that I come from, when you sit down as two men or two women and iron out issues and shake hands on it, and we left Chungu House and went to the first meeting of the Central Committee somewhere in Westlands that you saw us speaking the first time after Raila's death. I thought that we were on the same page. Okay. And every time we sit in these meetings, we agree on certain things, very basic things. We agree that the party has not made a decision to support William Ruto. All of these people agree that Raila never told us at any particular point in time that we should support William Ruto's re-election. In fact, Raila had seen 2027 as the best opportunity for ODM, because I can see the headline on the Star, on the Standard, saying numbers don't lie. It's actually true that you can do the math yourself. If William Ruto was declared president by 200,000 votes in 2022, and he has lost a big chunk of his support, because Mount Kenya alone gave him almost 4 million votes out of the so-called 7 million that he got. So Baba had seen that this is a great opportunity for ODM, because all we needed to do was to retain our bases. The exact same number of people who voted for us in 2022 are enough to make you president in 2027. So we sit in these meetings and we agree that nobody is going to run around shouting two-term. Immediately we leave the meeting. You see them in Homa Bay, in Migori, shouting two-term. So the rest of us who know that a decision has not been made to support William Ruto have to come out. Have to come out and say, no, that is not the position of the party. Up to today, nobody in the so-called leadership of ODM currently can show you a resolution of ODM. By any organ of the party to support William Ruto.
Edwin.
So when then you see the sort of happenings after that, they go to Mombasa, and people don't know that even the day before Mombasa, we had a meeting. We had a meeting with very senior members of the party who were trying to mediate some of these disputes. And we reached certain agreements. I was surprised that, because after they left, it is rumored that they passed through State House. And the very next day in the morning, they are reading these resolutions
because
to remove me as So, with people who know the truth but have chosen to keep quiet. Sometimes somebody will come out and say, oh, by the way, Baba's position was this. It helps. But then there's those who know the truth that have decided to twist it, So the history of the broad-based government, everybody knows what happens in June of 2024. Everybody knows. The countries on the brink, rumors are circulating that we could actually have the army take over. You remember that situation when the young people took over the streets and came to parliament and the other places. And Baba's thinking was that you need to protect our democracy. For him, the democratic space that we enjoy it took so much for us to get to where we are. Even this conversation we were having at the beginning, when I was telling you that there was a time when there was only one radio station and it was Baba na Mama. Democracy has certain pillars. There are certain freedoms that underpin democracy. You have to have a freedom of media, freedom of the civil society, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of conscience, freedom of worship. These are the key ingredients of a democratic state. And we were not always like this. These young people, I tell them every day, we were not always like this. It was not always possible for us to sit on a show like this and speak freely, And Baba's position was that this thing has to be guarded, as they say, that the price of democracy is eternal vigilance. There is every possibility that you could actually slip back to what used to happen in the 90s. And he says, we would rather have a bad president who was elected through some process than to have a dictator or a military man in State House, because immediately the military takes over, the constitutional order collapses. All of us, even including those of us who are in parliament, all institutions, including the judiciary and the others, they disappear under dictatorship. And he says let us show up this government, you know, let us give him the support. We get him to a place where we can remove him democratically. That is the background of the broad-based government. When you hear these other characters tell it, you would think that ODM and UDA sat somewhere in a convention under very normal circumstances and agreed that we are going to form a coalition government. That's not true. By the time we are signing the 10-point agenda MOU, the people who we loaned to government were already in government. So the MOU has nothing to do with the broad-based government. And, you know, these days nobody discusses the MOU because even they themselves, they were denying that we had an expiry date for that MOU. It was the 7th of March. Now, Brian, they go to... Dennis, sorry. They go to KICC and then they purport to extend by 60 days something they claim has not expired. Why are you extending it if there is no expiry date? You know? And for me, some of my problems emanate from my assessment of the implementation of the MOU. Now, it's public knowledge because Baba told the country that it is Sifuna who wrote that document. It is true. We wrote that document ourselves. And there's a background. You know, when Raila came from the AU race, they flew him direct to Mombasa. And when he arrives at Mombasa State House, he finds that they had prepared a document. Actually, it was more or less a coalition agreement with UDA. And Baba says, there's no way I can sign this document. His style was, first speak to my people. Yeah. And you see him embarking on these consultations across the country, talking to people. And Mzee used to know even when people were patronizing him. He comes back from the initial consultations were in the coast. He comes back from those consultations and in front of all of us as leaders of ODM, you know, I saw Caleb Amisi, my brother, doing a radio interview with a Bible in his hand. I think that thing should be standard now. Everybody should hold a Bible and tell the truth. You know? So Baba comes back from those consultations at the coast and he says he can tell when people are afraid to you know, to annoy him or to disappoint him. He can tell people who are being patronizing. He can tell people who are afraid to tell him what they actually feel. So he says out of Kilifi, Mombasa and Kwale, the only people who told him what they actually felt about that proposal to do an MOU with UDA are the people of Kwale. Okay. Yes. He says they are psychophans in Mombasa. He said it himself in front of people. It's not the people of Mombasa. It's the leadership in Mombasa that have decided to be psychophans. Ati baba we kile ambacho utaamua sisi tutafanya tu. Kwa sababu, you know, as a leader, you also depend on people to shape your you sharpen your ideas, to bounce off ideas. You cannot just have people who say, oh, Sifuna akisema left, tunaenda left. You know? So the 10-point agenda, there is that conversation. And then we have a central committee meeting at night in Kisumu, the day before we did the Jamboree in Busia, you know? And Baba informs the team that, you know, there is a group of experts who have been given the mandate to do a proper document, you know? That the one he saw in Mombasa, that one is not who we are as ODM. And at the end of the meeting, he tells them, when you guys finish doing that document, give it to Sifuna. And the room goes quiet. And then these merchants who are scared that things might not go their way, they're like, oh, Baba, why can't we form a small committee?
Members of ODM.
Members of the central committee. They're saying, oh, perhaps we can add one more or two more people. Then Jacob asks them, how many people does it take to read a document? Sifuna is our SG and he's also a lawyer. Give the document to him when you're done. Slams the table, the meeting is over. I come back to Nairobi. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks go by. Nobody is giving me the documents. I call them. I'm like, is that agreement ready, guys? They're just dodging me. Nini. On the day when we were signing that agreement, in the morning is when these characters shuffle in with a laptop. And the entire central committee of ODM is sitting there on one side of KICC. The president and his team are across the hall. It's a day of the signing of a document. And then there's a TV like this one in front of me. They start projecting the agreement.
Without you having looked at it?
Without me having looked at it. It's the first time all of us are seeing this document. We didn't even get to page 2. Baba is like, stop. Which document is this? This is not who we are. Then he turns to me and asks me, Sifuna, have you looked at this document? I say, Baba, this is the first time I am seeing it with you. The meeting stops. We are sent upstairs. My office is on 3rd floor of KICC. We go there with Professor Anyang Nyongo and we sit. He sits in my desk. Baba tells us, you guys must do a people-centric agreement. And we drafted that thing in like maybe 30 minutes. Yeah. So I know that document. I bring it downstairs. I print 1 copy, give it to my boss. My boss reads it and he says, this is it. You know? He tells me, Kina president are across the hall, take it to them and tell them this is our irreducible minimums. If they say yes, tunayo harusi. If they don't, we go. I take it across. And because I had told them that, you see, UDA's interest is not to implement anything that is in writing. They just want a document from which they can run their propaganda and say, yo, tumeungana, tumefanya nini.
And you knew this then?
I knew it. I said it in Kisumu, that Baba, this is going to be a PR disaster for me. And I said it from the position of the foremost PR officer for the party.
Right.
Because I'm the spokesperson of the party. Now, I take it to the president's team. Those guys didn't read it. They didn't read it because their interest was never in the text. They say, and then the president sitting there, iko sawa? Iko sawa. So even when I go back to the room where my boss is, they are shocked that it took me less than 5 minutes. So I'm like, wamekubali kila kitu. Okay, sawa, tuende to sign.
So it was obvious that it was not read.
They didn't read it because their interest was never in the text. And true to my prediction, when we stand at the steps of the KICC, what does the president say? Wangapi wanakubali tuungane, tutembe